I think like most people, man, um, a lot of people saw it coming. Nebraska wasn't, having that success like they thought he would bring as he, gave to UCF. But I think, with him being a hometown guy, that being his alma mater, um, I think that they gave him the benefit of the doubt, enough time, in their opinion, to turn things around, or keep build the program up to where they know it can perform. But
For
when
sure.
it comes to that, Power Five ball, man, it's all about wins and losses, man, and you can't go out losing to Georgia Southern. No disrespect to Georgia Southern's
Right.
program, because I know the coaches there and I know what they're building there, of course, but you, in the eyes of AP, in the eyes of ADs, in the eyes of boosters, there are certain teams you can't lose to and keep your job.
Yeah, exactly. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we kind of started off with some kind of breaking news, but at the same time, it was during the break. Uh, Man, I have a special guest for you guys. This man and I have been talking for a while. We've been trying to get him on the show uh, due to complications on both sides. Man, I'm glad to have you here, Coach Eric Martin. How are you doing, man? And could you tell the audience who you are exactly and kind of just go through what you do? I know you do some recruiting deals going on too. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what OMW is about, man.
Yes, for sure, man. First, love, appreciate you for having me on the show, man. Ever since I saw it a while back here, I know that it was something I would love to have been a part of. From one fellow podcaster to another, man. I love these types of conversations, so I appreciate you having me on. So my name's Eric Martin. Man, whatever hat I wear, I got so many of them. By day, I'm a high school coach here at Seminole High School in Sanford, Florida, which is my alma mater in my hometown. Just moved back here, coach defensive line. Um, Before then, I started my coaching career at Booker T. Washington High School in Pensacola, Florida. Prior to that, I went to the University of West Florida. I was a part of their inaugural football program back in 2015. Had my college stint there at the University of West Florida. Saw a national championship run. Just missed the Natty Championship due to graduation, but things happen.
Yeah,
But
education
yeah,
first, right?
hey, education first, man. I'm always going to be a proud Argo, and definitely happy and proud of what those guys accomplished, But, to see a program literally grow from the bottom up and be a part of that, was an amazing process. And I let guys know that all the time, man. Whenever, we get into the topic of D1, D2 ball, man, I always say, man, to see a program go from nothing to national championship run in 2 years, man. You got to put some respect on D2 ball. Um, Man, OMW Recruiting, on my way recruiting, man. That's my baby. That's my business that I've grown from the ground. It's a nonprofit organization and a free recruiting platform for high school and college transfer and junior college transfer student athletes. Man, we're looking to help student athletes learn the recruiting game, to learn the ins and outs, learn the business behind recruiting, learn how to get your leverage in the recruiting process, as far as getting in contact with coaches, what you need to know when a coach comes to talk to you, the things that you need to have done on your end to even be recruitable. And we've been blessed to do a lot in a short amount of time. In the last 8 months, we have helped close to 60 student athletes find homes, from high schools, from junior college to 4 years, 4 years to junior college, all types of situations, man. It started off with, six guys who just needed some help, and flourished into almost 60 kids who can now go on and, continue their education and athletic careers at a college, which I'm very, very proud of. I have a strong staff that works with me as well. And all of us, we donate our time, man. We're working for free to help kids all across the country, man, who just, value education, value football, and want to continue to pursue both. And give them the game, man, because there's no use sitting up here. So, you know, um, for
Yeah.
anybody that's out there looking to learn more about recruiting, learn more about the sports world, if you have a talent that's related to recruiting in any capacity that you think you would like to donate some time and talk to some guys, or if you're just a high school, college athlete that's looking to make some moves, hey man, follow OMW Recruiting on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, on all of that, man. And also visit omwrecruiting.com.
Well said, man. I actually know a couple of guys that are really young high school coaches right now. Both of them are offensive coordinators over here in South Texas, where I live, over by Rockport. Team, but they do a lot of help with recruiting for high school athletes as well. They even got a kid into an Ivy League at some point, man. Kid from Refugio, Texas, went to Columbia. I mean, that's a prestigious school right there, you know. But shout out to Matt and David McHugh. They went to my high school. They were seniors when I was a freshman. I cover some of their games on the side too. So I mean, I just love the like back when I was in high school, there wasn't really that much help towards recruiting, but nowadays, a lot of kids with social media and a lot of help with coaches that know the background of recruiting, they get help compared to what we had back in 2015 and 2014. I mean, it's incredible how recruiting has shot up over the past what 7 years, 8 years.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, man.
yeah, and speaking of recruiting, how does OMW deal with NIL? I mean, that's a big topic nowadays. The NIL ruling. Uh, what do you teach kids as far as NIL, or have you not gotten that far yet?
Well, we've kind of stepped our toe in the water a little bit on it. We've actually been in contact with a couple of NIL agents, one in particular who we're trying to build a partnership with.
Right,
Where we're not necessarily offering the NIL ourselves, but how we like to think of On My Way Recruiting is basically the Walmart of recruiting, man. When coaches think recruiting, when players think recruiting, when scouts think recruiting, think On My Way. And we want to offer kids the opportunity to kind of come to us, get guidance, get mentored, and then also have a whole highway of resources that they can utilize. So we're currently in the process of building networks with NIL agents that can look at our prospects, look at our guys that are in college currently, and say, hey, this is a kid who I think can, make an impact with this organization, and hopefully, be able to help get some money in these guys' pockets, and just get them in on the piece of the pie. Definitely something that has grown tremendously fast, and in my opinion, because it's something that should have been happening anyway. So people have been kind of preparing for it, and now
right.
that it's finally here, it's just a way of life because I mean, college athletes should have been getting paid from the jump, or at least
Oh,
had the
I
opportunity.
I agree. I agree. Do you think there should be like some boundaries and set points for college athletes in the NIL ruling? I mean, right now it kind of seems like it's a wild wild west at the moment, but I feel like once we get settled down in college football, not just in college football, but in college sports in general, things will settle down. Everything will be set just fine. But how can we prevent overusage of NIL? Is basically what I'm asking.
Honestly, man, I've thought about that a lot, and I've had this conversation before. And what I always bring it down to is like this. If I asked you, do you feel like you could get paid too much to do what you do on a day in
Right.
day out basis? Most people would say no. Aside from coaching, I'm also an educator. And everybody in the country knows that educators do not get paid what we really should be getting paid.
A-
So
Amen for saying that. Amen for saying
that's
that. They deserve to get paid more.
way more,
I am a firm believer of that. So
Oh yeah. And you asked me, hey, do you think that, if I gave you, I don't know, let's say $200,000 to do your job, is that too much? Not at all.
not
It's
at
a lot
all.
more than what it's a lot
That's
more
a
than what I make.
bonus. Come on now.
Exactly. That might be almost on par with what we should be making, so
Yeah.
and then let's say they give us 200,000, and then next year they're like, hey, what about 300,000? Is that too much? No, God no. And then the next year they say
Yeah.
400,000. Everybody puts in their work and their jobs and or careers or hustles or whatever it is that you do, and you deserve to get you know compensated for that. um you know Mostly monetary, but sometimes you do things and it doesn't give you a monetary joy, it gives you a spiritual joy or a emotional joy or whatever the case may be. Example being On My Way Recruiting. Like I said, we don't take a dime from any kid. We haven't gotten a dime for anything that we've done, but I look at it as a blessing to be able to be a blessing to a network of kids. But
Exactly.
when
Yeah.
it comes down to this NIL money, man, you're not putting a cap on how many yards they can rush. You're not putting a cap on how many tackles they can make, how many rings they can win you, how much money, millions of dollars that they're bringing into these institutions. I don't think that there should be a cap on how much money they can make from an NIL deal, nor the specific stipulations on getting the money per se. If they get a Subway deal, if they get a Checkers deal, if they get a McDonald's deal, if they get a Walmart deal, whatever the case is, you know,
Or in this case, for Bijan Robinson, a Lamborghini deal, and Quinn Ewers,
yeah,
a Bentley deal.
right. Hey, awesome, man. Good for you. I honestly think just like a lot of topics in this country specifically, a lot of people who aren't in that realm have too much to say about people who are, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm just a person, hey, my time is done. I wish I could have gotten a piece of the pie when I was playing ball, but at the end of the day, you know, we didn't have that opportunity. But I wish the best for these kids, man, because
Yeah.
if only less than 10% go from high school to college, and then less than a tenth of that percent goes and makes it to the next level, you're looking at a lot of guys who hopefully got a free education or heavily discounted. Some guys spent their whole careers as preferred walk-ons or walk-ons trying to make it onto, a scholarship list and didn't. So hey, man, I'm not gonna put any regulations, in my opinion, on how much money these kids can make. I would say the only regulation that might be of benefit is maybe they should require a financial management class, or something like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Maybe there should
Yeah.
be like, supervised, mandated financial advisors from the NCAA or something, where they're making sure that these kids aren't blowing their money, and they're making sure that there's no illegal, ties to this money that they're
Yeah.
getting. And that's also just to help the kids, not to, skim off the top or not to control their money, but to help
Yeah.
these kids utilize this money to help them and or their families after college and during college.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Like financial advisors for NIL would be tremendous for these kids. Just to have a class at least, and um, kind of just go over the NIL sponsorships. Like you need to have this amount of money and save this amount of money. That's the type of financial advising that I kind of want to see for this NIL ruling. I mean, don't get me wrong, this NIL thing is probably the greatest thing that has happened in college football, in my opinion. But I feel like they need to have special classes for it. I don't feel like not every college has that offered, but I tell you what, man, the NIL is just starting, and I'm excited for that. And how do you feel about college football realignment? First, Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC, Now we got USC and UCLA going to the Big Ten. I mean, then we got Cincinnati, BYU, UCF, Central Florida. I've been to Orlando. I was stationed over there in Jacksonville. In AS Jacksonville, shout out to you guys out there. And I said Houston. Houston is also going to the Big 12. And then there's rumors of some of the Pac-12 teams, 6 of them at least, or at most, going to the Big 12. Now, how do you feel about the dynamics of college football shifting over to pretty much super conferences? And do you think it's a smart move for some of these colleges?
Well, man, I would, this is something again, I've talked about casually with some buddies, and
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you the specific, amount of years that these schools have been in their said conferences. I know for sure that in my lifetime, I remember UCF being in the CUSA and then the American
Yeah.
Athletic Conference and now, this conference. But for a lot of these other programs, I couldn't tell you about their conference history, for the last 50 plus years, if their program has been around for that long. But what I could say, man, is that I think that it's almost expected for these changes to be made, given
Right.
the change in the playoff system. I think they tie hand in hand
Yes.
because the playoff system, in its very bare necessity, agree or not, is a popularity contest. Because if you're telling me that a board of people decides the top 4 teams to make it to the college playoffs, and all these other teams who might have had amazing records, great players, beating some good names in football, beat some Power 5 conference schools, can't make the playoffs because your same 4 teams or your same 3 teams plus a kicker every year is going to make it in, you know, I think it's kind of like the popular saying, if you can't beat the best, you got to be the best, or
Yeah.
if you can't beat them, join them. So if I'm not going to beat you out for one of those top 4 spots until this expansion kicks in, then maybe
I'm
I
gonna
just
join the
need to
conference.
join the
Yeah.
conference. If the difference between having a 9-1 season or a 10-1 season and making it to some low tier bowl game is just my conference, then yeah, I'm gonna rearrange my conference. I'm gonna realign my
Oh,
conference.
absolutely. It's also more money for the school to be able to be in the playoff or at least to do your sixth bowl. I mean, I I,
Exactly.
I get so frustrated with the CFP, especially when they came out with 14 playoff. I was never a fan of that. Why? Because it benefited the SEC more and the Big Ten more. Um,
Yeah.
when TCU and Baylor had that good run, okay,
Yeah, I
and
remember that. That was like
they
the
were right
first one or two,
outside.
right?
They were right outside the playoff, and you had all these other schools that Baylor and TCU could have whipped tail, but no, they just favored Alabama during that time and Ohio State and whoever was in that playoff. I don't even remember. I was so angry. I think I
Yeah.
canceled the playoff.
If I'm not even mistaken, I mean, and I may be wrong, but I was literally just talking about this with some of my coaches the other day, and if I'm not mistaken, I know for sure Bama was in because they took the fourth
Oh yeah,
spot after they just lost the week before. I think they lost their second game that season, and TCU had an amazing record, and they were ranked number 4 going into the CFP polling, and then
yeah, and they had
TCU got
Javon
booted to
Boykin
fifth.
there.
Yeah, I'm like there. I
He
remember
was
being
a
so upset.
dog.
Yes, and I'm like, there is no way that TCU got taken out of their 4th spot to Alabama, who didn't deserve to be there, but because Alabama is Alabama, they got taken out of the rings,
Right.
and I want to say maybe that might have been during the Florida State era. I think Ohio State might have been in there, Florida State, Bama, and I don't even know who else. I may be wrong
Oh,
about a couple
you
of
know who I think it was? I
who's
think
that.
it was Oregon, Alabama,
Yeah, I think that
Florida
Yeah,
State,
Oregon, Alabama, Florida State, and
Ohio
Ohio State.
State.
Yeah, because isn't that the year Ohio State won it all? Because Florida State, I want to say, got wiped
By Oregon,
Ohio
and
State.
Alabama got beat by Ezekiel Elliott in the Ohio
Yeah,
State Buckeyes.
yeah.
I am a Cowboys fan, but that's a story for another day, just like my colleague says. Um, but man, let's dive into this past weekend. I mean, just crazy football that happened,
Oh
and
yeah.
my predictions were terrible. I was 16-8 on my records. I have for Saturday top 25 games, and I have two unranked marquee matchups, is what I like to call them. Two unranked teams that I feel like are going to have a good fight. They're going to have a good matchup against each other. Um, One of them wasn't the case Saturday, and the other one was a good game, but I picked the wrong team. Um, let's dive into Friday. So Louisville, Malik Cunningham and the Louisville Cardinals, they are coming off of a terrible loss to Syracuse. Travels to Orlando in Spectrum Stadium, bounce house, the UCF Knights. I mean, this is one of my favorite programs since the Scott Frost era of UCF, and I was happy when they got Gus Malzahn because I think he's a good coach.
Definitely.
Well, in this game, it was tightly contested. I mean, Louisville brought the fight in the third quarter and won 20-14. I picked UCF in this game because I thought I don't think Louisville's defense can hold UCF's offense, but man, they did a pretty good job against Rice Plumley, which he only had 16 for 34 passing attempts and completions, 131 passing yards, and one INT. Malik Cunningham was just all over the field, passing and running the ball. 14 for 29, 201 passing yards, no picks, no touchdowns, but him running the ball, 17 carries, 121 rushing yards, and one touchdown. I mean, Malik Cunningham might be on the wrong team. I mean, he's just carrying the whole team on his back. It looks like on offense. What did you think about this game, man? I mean, this was a good game to watch.
Well, coincidentally, that game was on Friday, right? If I'm not mistaken.
It was. It was.
Yeah, so funny enough, UCF again, like you said, is in our backyard, where I'm from in Sanford. We're about 20-25 minutes away. So while we were playing our game last Friday against Treasure Coast, they were playing their games, and I kind of heard some updates. But by the time our game was over and coaches and I watched film, the game was over, and I almost really I didn't think nothing of it until I heard that UCF lost. Um,
Yeah.
so I unfortunately didn't get to see the game, but what I do know is this, man. I actually have some fellow Knowles who are graduates of Seminole High School recently, and within the last about 4 or 5 years, who have gone on from there. Another fellow class, well, a couple years younger than me, and a huge name in the NFL right now, Gabe Davis, receiver for the Buffalo Bills. He's
Yeah.
he was a sophomore at Seminole when I was a senior. Brandon Moore, who started off his career at UCF, transferred to Florida State, and now is at Nebraska DB. I say all that to say that, I've witnessed the plight of UCF, going in that defeated year, and then getting Scott Frost and just completely turning the program around to being almost, CFP contenders. Um, you know, I don't think that this loss from UCF is going to define them from the rest of the year. Louisville's a great program. They always have been, and even in their droughts, they have athletes. They're always going to recruit athletes. So and it was a tight contest. I think that they're coming off of losing a couple of guys as well. UCF is, and they're trying to rebuild a couple guys. This is Gus Malzahn's first full year, if I'm not mistaken, right? His first full season with the Knights, or is
Uh,
it his
I think it's his second
second?
season.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
remember he
it's
went
his second
to
season with
year.
the Knights.
Yes, his second year. And as you said, amazing coach, great coach. Had the opportunity to meet him myself a couple weeks back against
Really?
Yeah, he was on the sideline at our game against Osceola High School. They had a 4-star defensive tackle who was or 3-star guy who's committed there. So he
Oh,
showed up to the
nice.
sideline to have a couple of our guys that he's offered and scouted out. So great guy, great coach, great mind. And like I say, he's steadily building his roster to perform and be ready to compete in the Big 12 next year. I don't think that, like I said, I don't think this one loss is going to define them. I don't think that this is going to, detriment them because for the most part, this is still the same UCF team that went off and beat Florida last
Yeah.
year in the bowl game.
Yeah, and the
Um,
Gasparilla Bowl.
that's
I
right.
mean, I I claim I have them claimed as the best Florida team in the country. So
Hey
that's
man, I can support that, man. I think you know I met Mike Norvell myself again over the summer at his 7-on-7. We won that 7-on-7 competition. And great guy, great coach. Again, I myself am a LSU fan, so I'm not too happy with him right now. But
yeah.
he I though they had a great win against us, we weren't at our best. And I would like to see how the Florida State continues to go on through the rest of their season. Florida,
Yeah.
honestly, squeaked by Utah. Utah shot themselves in the foot. They really should have been 1-0 from the beginning of the season there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same thing about one of these games that we're going to be talking about, and I think you know what game I'm talking about. But we'll go ahead and start with this other matchup, this marquee matchup. This game was not even close. I thought it would be a lot closer. I thought Missouri had a really good offseason this year, but I mean, Deuce Vaughn, man, whew. Kansas State 40-12 against Missouri. I thought Missouri was going to come in, former Big 12 rivals, and really put on a pretty good performance. And I thought this game was going to go into OT, honestly, but man, Deuce Vaughn, 24 carries, 145 yards, and 2 touchdowns against this Missouri Tigers defense. It's the same story with Missouri. Ever since they came into the SEC, they started off strong, but now they're slowly declining. They've been declining. It's really sad to see because I like Missouri. I really do. I really love their football program. They've always been tough towards anybody in the Big 12. I mean, it's one of those things that you go, wow, Missouri really has gone downhill ever since Texas played Drew Lock. I mean, it's been a long time since I've seen Missouri at its best. So.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
yeah, Kansas State looks good right now. Kansas looks good right now. That's insane. Both Kansas schools are 2-0, I believe.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man. Transfer portal's been working well for both of those programs. From knowledge myself, Kansas has definitely profited from the transfer portal as well as just some good overall recruiting of coaches as well. They got some great staffs there looking to bring in a lot of guys from places that they aren't normally recruiting from over the last few years that can come in and bring more athletic talent to the program.
Yeah,
And as far as Missouri, what I've learned about Missouri is that Missouri is good when their defense is good.
yeah,
The last successful season that they've had that was, kind of worth bragging about was, I believe, Michael Sam's last year, where he
yeah,
got, the defensive player of the year and for the conference. And they had a really, really great year that year. They've had a few, winning seasons. I think they've had some bowl eligibility since then as well, maybe for 1 or 2 years, but it's never been that caliber of team. Even last year, I'm looking at them in the beginning. I'm like, man, this looks pretty promising. They got a nice little quarterback there, generational guy, some good offensive line, receivers, defensive line. But, it's just all about putting it together. And I think that the one thing looking at a team like that is you're in the toughest conference in the country, but how do you break past being average in the SEC, you know what I'm saying, and also win out against teams that you should be, beating. Um, it
Yeah.
makes it a little tough, makes it a little tough. I think that they just really got to focus on who they're recruiting, know where they're getting guys from, and building just a standard culture there, man.
Oh, absolutely. Well, now we're going into the top 25. I mean, a lot of upsets, a lot of close calls, a lot of good matchups too. But I think you know where I'm going with this one. The first game I want to talk about, all right, is the matchup that we've all been wanting to see, the rematch of the national championship in 2010. Alabama travels to Austin in the 40 acres to take on the
Yeah.
University of Texas Longhorns.
Yeah.
Everybody was saying, everybody was saying 20 points or higher against Texas. That defense can't hold Alabama's offense. Well, what I said last week was Alabama's going to win, but it's going to be a close game because this Texas defense is a lot different with Gary Patterson being at the helm, helping out Sart as an advisor. Okay, and I had Bama winning by 3 points, but I did not expect how well this offense played, even without Quinn Ewers. Uh, they were able to hold Will Anderson, who is a Heisman contender in my opinion. Sarton really had a really good game plan. It looked like the Bama players got outplayed. Uh, but that fourth quarter with Bryce Young, man, I just can't help it. He is something special. Kid out of Mater Day goes into Alabama, wins the Heisman his first starting season, and now he's looking like he's going to be a back-to-back Heisman after that performance. I mean, it seemed like just him and that linebacker Moody for Alabama, and also Reichard. Reichard's top tier kicker in the country, in my opinion. Um, and what struck me was the ending of the game when Bama started doing the horns down. I'm not going to do it because I can't do that. I'm a Texas fan by heart, but I am realistic. Okay, so I know what's going on with Texas, and I speak the truth about that. Um, but what struck me was they did the horns down at the end of the game. Nick Saban, excuse my language, folks, but he goes, "Don't do that shit." That right there tells me he has respect for Texas and he has respect for the game of football. Now, go and talk about Alabama first. They didn't look like Alabama for the most part, but Texas really did a good job in that game. So, Eric, how do you feel about this whole game, first of all? Did you think that Texas came in with a great game plan, or did Alabama slump?
Oh, man. Honestly, this was one of the few games that I actually sat down and watched for the most part. This weekend, just having a crazy weekend. And I'll tell you, I'm glad I did. Um, I'll say this. A lot of Alabama fans feel like Alabama wasn't Alabama. I think that Texas said, hey, we utilized the portal, we utilized our recruiting, all right? We got guys in, we made the bid to get into the SEC, and now we're going to show you why we belong. They got a great new head coach, great new offensive coordinator. Um, I think honestly, and this is just my prediction, my Monday night quarterbacking, their quarterback doesn't get hurt, Texas wins that game. Um, I think that Alabama just, for the first time in a while in the regular season has met their match defensively. Their defense held Alabama to a lot of short yardage, and the big plays that they did gain, utilizing that, their running back there. they Texas defense made up for it a lot by just combating short, keeping the field goals, keeping them to 3 and outs, forced downs. Texas defense did an amazing job. I just think that for the first time in a while, Alabama met their matching team. I
Yeah.
think that Texas knew, hey, this has been the first time we've played each other in 12 years. So,
Yeah.
we need to come with a jump. You're in our house. Um, and though, the score didn't reflect a win, I actually said this earlier verbatim that, you know, Texas won that game. Alabama may have won, they had a great special teams unit there, whatever the case may be, but
Yeah.
Texas won that game.
Oh, I agree, man. Like, I'll be real honest with you. Even if we didn't have Quinn Ewers, I still think we would have won the game. Just a lot of missed opportunities with the Xavier Worthy drop in the end zone, the block kicked. Um, but there's a controversial call about that roughing the passer targeting call,
Yes.
and also the call of safety, or it wasn't a safety. Uh, there's pictures looming around that Bryce Young's shin was down, and according to a rule, the shin is part of below the knee and whatnot, touching the ground. It's considered a down. But I think before his shin was down, he did throw the ball, and it did hit uh, DeMarvion Overshone, and a lot of people were saying that was intentional grounding. There was Jameer Gibbs, I believe, right next to somebody, and DeMarvion Overshone tipped the ball, not intentionally, but tipped the ball with his helmet. But I mean, there was a lot of missed calls in that game on both sides. On both sides, and this is me being unbiased. Missed calls on both sides, and then that targeting slash roughing the passer was just weird. And that was probably the craziest sequence I've ever seen, and I think that's what built Alabama's offense back up going into the fourth. Um, but man, Texas had a hell of a performance. I got to say that was probably the best performance we had since the Sugar Bowl game against Georgia. But
I
man,
agree.
I
I agree.
mean, man, it makes me proud to be a Longhorn, basically. but
Man, yeah.
but next game is a game that I predicted correctly, so I'm 2-1 so far. Uh, in Lubbock, Texas, the Red Raiders shocked the world, 33-30 in overtime. Donovan Smith runs it in, game-winning touchdown. Uh, man, this Houston program's really good. Clayton Tune, he threw 20 completions for 39 attempts, 268 passing yards, one touchdown, one interception. Donovan Smith, I mean, he did throw 3 interceptions, but his resiliency to get back into the game, run that in for the game-winning touchdown. I mean, I personally think Texas Tech is a sleeper team and a trap game, and I think they just proved it against Houston. And I picked Texas Tech to win this game after watching Houston play against UTSA, and it's tough playing on the road against a very tough environment like UTSA and Texas Tech.
Definitely.
But Eric, how do you feel about this game, man? This game was pretty wild at its own.
That's another one of those games, I caught the glimpses. Houston's a good program, man. And I think that over a lot of things, the mark of a good program is just consistency. Um,
Yes.
I would say over the last maybe 8 years or so of just somewhat paying attention, you know, Um, Houston has been very consistent in their efforts as far as winning, as far as recruiting, as far as coaching staff. Um, and they've been a serious contender in their conference, as well as to some non-conference teams, and bigger programs. And so it doesn't surprise me that the game was a game at all.
Yeah.
Does not surprise me one bit. Um, I think Texas Tech, just had what it took to, pull the win out. They might have had a little bit more of the resources as far as, athletic ability. But it does go to show that you can't sleep on anybody, man. I tell my guys that all the time. Anybody can win on any given day. And I think that Houston, if anything, should take away that they're one piece away from being a big contender, going into a bigger conference here.
Yeah. And speaking of that, they are going to be Big 12 content, or really a Southwest Conference rematch since
Yeah.
the Southwest Conference got disbanded back in 1995, 1996 seasons. But I got to say, Houston is going to be impressive within the next couple of years. I think Dana Holgerson is the right fit over there after Houston's down seasons after Tom Herman left for Texas. Um, but I like Joey McGuire over there at Texas Tech. I think he's a really good fit over there, and their recruiting is underrated. Right
Very
now,
much.
they are recruiting at a high level, probably the best level that they've had since Mike Leach.
Yeah.
And
100% agree.
yeah, and we all know about the controversy between Texas Tech and Mike Leach with the with James Craig and all them guys. But yeah, I mean, Tech looks good right now. I see them being a possible trap game for both Texas and Oklahoma. Especially Oklahoma this year. I don't think Oklahoma looks that impressive. Especially, we'll talk about it more with Oklahoma shortly. But another Big 12 team, Baylor, travels to BYU, and it went to double overtime, and this game was wild. Uh, I picked Baylor to win, but I kind of expected BYU to bring the fight because that program is a tough program to play in and to start in. Okay, BYU takes the victory in double overtime, 26-20. I mean, you gotta love it for Provo, Utah up there. They're about to be in the Big 12, and they just beat one of the top Big 12 teams in recent memory. I love what the Cougs are doing over there in BYU. Uh, what's your thoughts on that?
No, Baylor is such an interesting program because of their like volatility. They're so up and down with
Yeah,
so many factors that just push them to be great and then push them to be garbage. Um, but
yeah,
as you said, man, Brigham Young is a good program, dude. They're not backing down from any program they play. Um, and surprisingly enough, they do some good recruiting. Surprisingly enough, and I say that because if you know anything about Utah and the Utah culture, it's pretty rough. But
yeah,
it's pretty rough place to be. But I mean, when you're consistently successful, like I said about Houston, when you're consistent and you bring consistent effort and you have plans and a vision to get ahead and get into a bigger conference, which going back to what we were talking about earlier with the conference switches, to get those guys are looking at the pretty stuff, they're looking at the window dressing when it comes to those conferences. Hey, if we want to get top recruits and all that takes is just switching conferences, we're going to switch conferences. We got to make this recruiting game fair game. So, it doesn't surprise me that Brigham Young comes out with that victory. Honestly, I think Baylor's on part of that uprise again.
yeah.
Um, I think it was a well fought game, but not a surprise at all. BYU, like I say, is a consistent program. Stuff that I kind of expect. I like to call them one of my FBS upset teams. Appalachian State
Yes.
is definitely one of them as well. They're probably my top FBS upset team is App State, which I know we're going to talk about here soon. And
Whoa, yeah, I can't wait to get into that.
yeah, you know, and it helps keep football interesting, man. I genuinely
Yeah.
think that games like this keeps college football interesting because it just depletes the whole powerhouse deal. And it just makes a good look.
Oh man, absolutely. I wasn't really surprised about this either. I was actually contemplating who'd win this matchup between BYU and Baylor. Like I had to think in my head, like, well, okay, I think Baylor has some upside, but they did lose some defenders. They did lose Gary Bohannon, but Shapen's really been performing. But then again, they played against Albany, where BYU they destroyed South Florida that last
Yes.
week. So
Jesus, yes, they did. Ooh, don't even
yeah,
get me started on South Florida, man. Man, Jesus, that
they're
was
they're just rebuilding to rebuild to rebuild over there,
yeah. They,
Tampa.
they don't know
So
what they're doing over there, man.
yeah, they they have more colorful combinations than they do wins. So
Exactly. I mean, just a slight snippet on that. Again, another Seminole High School alum. You have uh, was it Jimmy Horn? Their true freshman quarterback from last year.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Jimmy Horn, who was also the state championship quarterback for Seminole in 2020, undefeated season. I think has the school record for like passing yards, maybe passing touchdowns in a season, so on and so forth. He goes to USF, comes in as a true freshman, and just does well, man. He sets USF on path. They go and get this transfer quarterback from Baylor, who was a backup. Um, Gives them a fat NIL deal, $200,000 to come in
yeah.
and get demolished by Brigham Young for week one. Now you take Jimmy and he's at UCF. He's back home. And for now in the same conference as you. So, you
Yeah,
know, USF, I think right now they're trying to play catch up. They're really trying to
yeah,
play catch up with the big boys. But what you need to do, just like anything else, and especially in any other business, is that you got to dominate the market you're in before you try to penetrate the next market. Uh, you know,
yeah. So next game we're going to talk about is the Ohio State Buckeyes. They had Arkansas State come by. Not a shocker to me whatsoever. 45-12. I think Ohio State just had a rough game against Notre Dame. We'll talk about Notre Dame here shortly. I mean, CJ Stroud played a lot better in this game. 16 out of 24 attempts, 351 passing yards, and four touchdowns on that one. Trey Henderson, 10 carries, 87 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I personally think he should get more carries. Trey Henderson, Marvin Harrison Jr. That's a familiar name, Marvin Harrison. His young lad, his young kid. 7 receptions, 184 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That kid was on fire against
man,
Arkansas
yeah,
State. I just think this had to have been a win for Ohio State, and it had to have been a blowout. I mean, it should have been a blowout, but excuse me. Arkansas State still had 12 points on the board, even though it was just field goals. But I feel like Ohio State's defense got a lot better this season, but the offense is really slowly coming together after that Notre Dame win. Um, but next game, Miami takes on Southern Miss. They had a slow start, a scary slow start for the Hurricanes over in Miami. But They slowly got back together in the second quarter. Then third quarter, they just ran away with it afterwards. So um, Miami wins 30-7 over Southern Miss. What's your take on Miami this year? Do you think they're overrated? Do you think they're gonna have trouble with A&M, or do you think they're legit this season?
I'll be honest with you, man. I'm so slow to read into Miami this year. They always come in as that potential team for one reason or another. Oh, they got the next great quarterback. They got the next great O line. They got the next great head coach. The next great OC. The next great
Yeah,
Jordan uniforms. And for one reason or
yeah,
another, man, most years they do not hold up to that expectation. I think that this new coach does have the capacity to bring in a familiar Miami culture. Um, I think that they've been doing some decent recruiting as well. I
yeah.
think that they're coming in pretty strong here with I mean, of course, a slapdick win over Bethune Cookman. Excuse my French, but I mean,
No,
you
no, it's fine. It's fine on here. Trust me,
yeah,
it is
you know,
completely fine.
oh yeah, and then, like I said, I know the coaches at Bethune, and great guys, great program, love them to death, right up the road here. But I mean, we knew what that was going to be. And they rolled that enthusiasm over, and I just think the real test is going to be, can you beat the state powers? Can you beat what looks to be a recharged Florida State? Can you beat a steady charged, I would say, and for somehow reawakened Wake Forest? Can you beat the guys in your conference? Can you beat out of conference guys? Can you get back to a conference championship? I think by the end of the season is when I'll probably have a fair assessment, honestly. Just,
Right.
you got to get to some real games, man. You got to get through some injuries, potential injuries throughout the season. You got to get through, different factors. But I mean, I think they have the potential to do something, man. Right now it's kind of no brainer wins. They say that you should be rolling over Southern Miss. You should be rolling over Bethune Cookman. Let's see what you do against some guys that are going to put up a good fight against you.
Yeah. So fun fact: this is the first season that North Carolina State, Duke, and Wake Forest are all undefeated since they first established themselves in in football.
Wait, at the same,
How
that's the
crazy
first
is that
time?
stat? First
Man,
time ever.
that's wild, dude. I mean, honestly, like all those teams have had like their own periods of success throughout, uh, college football history. Wake Forest, well, like I say, they were just a huge surprise to me last year, man. I mean, huge
Yeah.
surprise to me.
I give full credit to Sam Hartman the way he's been playing, dude. It's Sam Hartman is a baller, man. And
Yeah,
after that blood clot ordeal where he was out that first game, comes back second game, which we'll talk about this game here in a little while. But man, I'm impressed with Sam Hartman. I really am.
very.
But yeah, like you said, Miami's got a lot of these tall orders that they got to go against. And next week, I don't necessarily think that A&M's got the best offense in the world, but their defense is a lot better than what I anticipate or have been anticipating this year. But speaking of SEC, let's check into Fayetteville where Arkansas took on Spencer Rattler and the Gamecocks. That's kind of weird to say, Spencer Rattler and the Gamecocks. Um, I mean, I'm not that big of a fan of Spencer Rattler, man. I just don't see the hype in him. And he did have a decent game 24 for 39, 376 yards, one touchdown, though. One touchdown. If I see 300 and something yards, I kind of expect two or three touchdowns. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
he
for
did
sure.
throw a pick. But I think the problem with Spencer Rattler is he buys into his hype and he underperforms to where he just doesn't look good. I mean, look what happened in Oklahoma. The fans were booing at him when they beat West Virginia last season, and Caleb Williams had to come in and pretty much save Oklahoma against Texas. I mean, then both quarterbacks transfer out of Oklahoma. Spencer Rattler goes to South Carolina. Now there's hype around South Carolina because not only him but Stogner from Oklahoma comes in as well. Well, they had a decent win last week, but now they play against that tough run game against Arkansas. Um, I think Arkansas is a favorite now to win the SEC West. They're one of the favorites, but Arkansas wins 44-30 against South Carolina. There was that last play where they almost had a defensive touchdown, but it got called back, and that's pretty much the end of the game right there. But man, how impressed are you with Arkansas right now? Like the last couple seasons with Sam Pittman, I mean, it's just been awesome. And KJ Jefferson, uh, very underrated quarterback, very talented quarterback. I got to witness and at my TV screen last season. Caleb was there for that, and he got scared because of my rant because I'm a diehard Longhorn fan, and well, we got our ass whipped against Arkansas. So yeah, how impressed are you with Arkansas right now?
Arkansas, man, honestly, has been doing a really good job. Like you said, it's been a build over the last couple of years, and I think that they've realized their capacity to compete in the conference and in college football in general, man. Um, I think with a few realignments in coaching, some extra added power on the field, recruitment wise, man, they've really started to build what can be a competing team in the SEC. Um, I think they're handling the ball well defensively. Well, let me rephrase that. They're handling things well on defense, and on offense, they're handling the ball pretty well as also. They're just an all around good program now, which I
Yeah,
feel like a lot of people don't really get the importance of building a program, not building an offense or a defense, but building a program
it's the
from.
buy into the program. It ain't just all about defense or offense like the NFL has been in recent memory, or in the early 2000s when it was just ground and pound in the NFL. But yeah, like you said, it's just like high school. You have to build a really good program to build on and to actually win more than 7 games, win more than 5 games. And Sam Pittman it has really done a good job with Arkansas, in my opinion. I think Arkansas is a prime favorite to beat Alabama this year, especially after that game against Texas. Alabama had, and then Arkansas, they're just as physical, if not even more physical than Texas. So we'll see what happens when the Crimson Tide go to Fayetteville this year.
Yes, yeah, I'm enthusiastic about that game for sure, and
Yeah,
like I said earlier, you're building a program, and the one thing that people know, the difference between a team and a program is that a team is a one-time thing, but a program is a forever thing if you manage it correctly. A
right.
program is something that you bring guys in for years to come, and they understand what the culture is.
And
Um,
look at Nick Saban. He's built a
yeah,
really good program.
yeah, program.
Urban Meyer before he left for the NFL, left for the commentary table. I mean, he built a really good program over there at Ohio State. Disregard what happened in Jacksonville. Um,
Yeah, they didn't
I
give him enough
mean,
time in Jacksonville, man. I think they expected way too much from him in a short amount of time, and
yeah.
they let him go extremely too early. But I mean, yeah, again, program builder. You build a program in Florida, turn around, retire unretire, build a program again in Ohio State. So like I said, when you build the expectation, no matter who comes in there, they know what it is, and you either get with it or get out. You know, that's how you build success, man. Especially in the Power Five conferences, especially in the SEC. That's how you're gonna beat Saban. That's how you're gonna, make yourself a contender out there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Next game, we're going to talk about. We're just going to go a little bit faster with these, and then go with our predictions, Coach Martin. The only games we'll really talk about is Texas A&M losing to App State, Notre Dame losing to Marshall, Wisconsin losing to Washington State. I mean, what is going on with the top 25 right now? Yeah, teams losing to teams
Recruiting.
that should not lose like that. And Notre Dame got spanked. I don't care what anybody says. The score says otherwise. The stats say otherwise. That's what I'll always say. Stats will always determine if your team got whipped, even though you won or lost, or your team absolutely pummeled the other team stat wise. I mean, Marshall came to play, and Notre Dame Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and Wisconsin handed out money to lose. That's where I'm going to put. And who pissed off the Sun Belt? Because Georgia Southern, App State. I mean, goodness, App State winning at Kyle Field. I
Yeah.
mean, I knew they were going to bring the fight. I really predicted them to bring the fight against Texas A&M, but I didn't think the defense would have trouble with Bryce and Peoples. Man, whew, when
Man,
I saw that last run by Peoples, and they had to stop him, and he stiff armed that one defender, it was over. I
yeah.
mean, I felt every Aggie fan that is around, their soul left, and it was music to my ears. I'll be honest.
Oh yeah,
Um,
man.
got
I
to be
love
a
it.
heel. Got to be a heel every once in a while, man. It was
Yeah.
music to my freaking ears when A&M fans lost to App State. And look at Boone, North Carolina, when that happened. The crowd came together in the middle of the street, the busiest street in Boone, North Carolina. Small town, and the Mountaineer fans are just freaking awesome. I mean, I love App State. Ever since they beat Michigan back in 2007, I've
Yeah.
always said do not underestimate App State. But everybody had them losing by 18 on the spread. So, yeah, 17 to 14. And then and then Notre Dame. Notre Dame. At least Wisconsin lost to a Power Five. But to Marshall, another Sun Belt Conference team?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, man, a lot of people aren't really talking about it a lot, but the Sun Belt Conference is on the rise, man.
Yeah.
Spending a lot of time in Pensacola, got to look a lot about at the University of South Alabama. They're building a good program there. Marshall done a hell of a lot of recruiting, doing a great job there. You look at what Coastal Carolina, who's in the top
Yeah.
25 program, and I remember when I was getting recruited, and they offered me, they were a FCS program that no one was talking about. You know,
Yeah.
the Sun Belt Conference is slowly on the rise, and a lot of people aren't even noticing it. Um, I think Marshall just went in there and did what they were supposed to do. Notre Dame, of course, is again rebuilding a culture. You lost your head coach to LSU, who does nothing for us in game one, but um, you know, you're rebuilding culture. You're setting the tone of where you want things to be, and you got some rough patches to figure out there. But
Oh, yeah, for
you
sure.
know. I think statistically, yeah, it's an upset. But hey, like I said, any given team, any given day, with the recruiting
Yeah.
portal, transfer portal the way it is, man, it's fair game for anybody to win these days, I feel.
Yeah. I mean, just look at UTSA and what Jeff Traylor has done over there for University of Texas of San Antonio. And Texas has
Yes.
got to play them next. I mean, they're a tough team to play. They beat Army this past weekend,
Yep.
41-38. Um, I think UTSA is going to bring the fight to Texas, and we'll talk about that later on. But, man, what Jeff Traylor has done for UTSA is an unbelievable ordeal that UTSA has gone through ever since they first stepped into the FBS level. And really, when they first started back in the day, um, I don't even remember when they first started. It was recent, but goodness, UTSA has really grown as a football program. And shout out to UTSA, the Roadrunners, man. Whew. Played tough against Houston, barely lost in the overtime in that game. That was insane. I don't think I need to go over that again. Last video was, oh my goodness. Then they played against Army, beat Army 41-38 in a shootout. It's hard to play against that triple option. And now they got to play against a Texas team that is questionable on quarterback and questionable on BJ Robson playing because of his shoulder injury. Um, that's going to be a tough one to pick for me because I don't know what's going to happen, So Michigan looks like Michigan of last year. They look the same. Um, USC, I feel like we're going to hear more of Caleb Williams and Jordan Addison. Now, USC, ever since Lincoln Riley had gone over to LA and is now the head coach of Southern California,
Yes.
I mean, they look impressive to me. I mean, yeah, it's Stanford, but Stanford looks a lot better this year. I mean, this is just an incredible start for USC, even though they played against Rice. They were supposed to beat Rice. People had USC uh, in the playoffs. I have them in the playoffs with the way they're playing, with the way they're playing, and also with the amount of talent that they have. I think Lincoln Riley is a good fit for USC. Whether OU fans like to hear it or not, boo-hoo, get over it. Jordan Addison, whew, what a playmaker. I mean, he did it at Pitt, but I think now that he's got Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, he could really showcase over there in Southern California and just really light up the scoreboard with him and Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams has been impressive to me since the Red River shootout back last year. I mean, how does USC build momentum after this game, or how is this USC team going to be undefeated? How do they stay undefeated in your take?
Honestly, I guess in a non-schematic way of answering the question, man, they got to play up. They got to play to the level that they're trying to be at,
Mm-hmm.
because with them and their expected conference switch up and everything, you got to come in and play ball. Whether a lot of people noticed it or not, when Lincoln went to USC, he took a lot of recruits with him, like committed recruits
Yeah,
with him, and
and
so
coaches and coaches. He took half of the OU staff last season with him.
yes. Exactly. Again, part of that program building, you got guys who believe in you. You got guys who believe in what you can do and what you're doing, and that helps build culture and it builds a program. Um, I think that he's going to have a really solid time just You know, I don't know about undefeated. I'll say that I don't know about undefeated, but I definitely think that he's going to be maybe New Year's Six Bowl. Um, Depending on how other teams are looking, man, depending on if a lot of more upsets are going to be happening this year, maybe a fourth or third seed in the CFP.
Yeah,
Um,
that's where I have them. I have them like in the third or fourth seed right now. Georgia. I don't think anybody's close to Georgia right now. I think
no,
Georgia is playing at a high level right now, even
in a
though they
league
just
of their own right now.
even though they beat Sanford 33-0. I mean, they did take care of business. They did what they were supposed to do. Um, but the way they handled Oregon scared me as a college football fan. I think Georgia is slowly becoming the new Alabama, and Alabama's starting to disintegrate just a hair. I don't think they're completely down. I just think that Alabama doesn't have what Georgia has right now. So,
Not at all, man. I
my
mean,
goodness.
even when Georgia's losing, they're winning, man. You look at LSU's undefeated season with Joe Burrow a couple years back, and they played Georgia in the what SEC championship there,
Yeah, that
and
was man.
I
That
mean,
was a that was a awesome team right there.
amazing team, awesome, amazing, spectacular team. But even then,
And
Georgia wasn't a bad team. You then turn around to the following year, and they lose it to Bama. The year after that, lose it to Bama. The year after that, lose it to Bama, and then come back and win Cincinnati against them. You know,
yeah,
Georgia's not. Georgia has no problem with talent. They have no problem with coaching. They have no problem with anything. It was just building it to be exactly what they wanted this program to be with the right guys at the right time. And
yeah.
now that the opportunity has met the timing, they're not going to be touched for a good time. A lot of recruits, they're the guys that they want, they're getting. Um, I do see them being having the capacity to be, the next powerhouse in the country, not even just the SEC, but the country. Georgia's just doing what
Yeah.
Georgia does, man, and I think that's a spectacular mark on the team. You're coming in there and handling business as you should, and rolling out week to week, and you're preparing for the playoffs. So, yeah, I
Oh,
can't be mad at it.
absolutely. So right before we go into week three, I kind of want to just go over every score real quick so that the fans know what the scores were. So the first game was Alabama at Texas. Alabama squeaks by 20-19. Uh, Next game was Houston at Texas Tech. Texas Tech took the win 33-30 in overtime. Then we go to Baylor at BYU. BYU takes the win 26-20 in double overtime. Arkansas State at Ohio State. It was a blowout. Everybody should have known that. 45-12. Southern Miss taking on Miami. Miami started slow, but slowly came back to what they were meant to be this year. 30-7. Arkansas takes down the Gamecocks 44-30. Vanderbilt does not win. They lose their first game to a ranked Wake Forest team 45-25. NC State blows out Charleston Southern 55-3. Utah bounces back after a what I like to call a humiliating loss to Florida, 73-7 against Southern Utah. Notre Dame they lose to Marshall 26-21. Clemson beats Furman, another team that I have questions about. They beat Furman 35-12. Appalachian State pulls away with the upset 17-14. Tennessee wins in overtime 34-27. Washington State upsets Wisconsin at Madison, Wisconsin 17-14. A lot of 17-14s there, Eric. Sanford travels to Georgia just to get beat 33-0. Akron travels to East Lansing to take on the Michigan State Spartans 52-0. Michigan State. That's another impressive team that I'm waiting to see what happens in the conference play. Kent State gives Oklahoma trouble in the first half, but Oklahoma finds a way to get out of that funk. 33-3. Kentucky and Florida, a highly anticipated game. Florida loses 26-16.
Yeah.
Next game, Central Arkansas at Ole Miss. Ole Miss wins 59-3. Should be that way. Arizona State, the Sun Devils travel to Stillwater to take on Mike Gundy and the Cowboys, and Oklahoma State wins 34-17. USC travels to Stanford to take on Emmitt Smith's son, EJ. They come out with a win, 41-28. And last ranked game that we were kind of discussing was Michigan at home against Hawaii. Comes away with the win, 56-10. That concludes the Week 2 conversations. Now, what's your take on Week 2 there, Eric?
Man, to be honest with you, it just leaves me excited, man. Like I said, I think that we're finally entering an era of football where teams are meeting their matches, where coaches are getting out coached, players are getting outplayed, and programs are finally starting to come together, and it's showing. So, it just leaves me excited going into further, weeks in college football. I think that Florida, specifically, only because I feel so strongly about that win that they had against Utah. I think that this past week has definitely shown, what they are not going to be this year. Whether they, keep their new coach over there from Lafayette or not, I don't know. But I don't
Bill
see them.
Napier.
The old Bill Napier, and I don't think that they're going to be this hot shot team this year at all. To be honest with you, like
I feel like they're missing. I feel like they're missing a lot of pieces on Florida. They still got a ways to go before they can start hyping up people.
Yeah,
I do see them in. I do see them in a bowl game this year. I really do. So hopefully, Florida can get back on the grind. But as of right now, they're looking like the same team as last year.
Yeah, I know that this Florida Georgia game is going to be dumb. It's going to be ridiculous.
Duval County is not going to appreciate this game. I mean, I've been in that stadium. I've been to a college game. I've been to an NFL game. What's more lively? The college game, because I went to a Mississippi. I went to the what do they call that bowl now? It's not the Gator Bowl. It's the it'll come to me. But I went to that bowl game. It was Lamar's last college game, and they played against that tough Mississippi State game. And I tell you what, the atmosphere was unreal. I've been to a Jaguars game where they played against the Ravens. I felt like there was more energy in a college game than there was in the NFL game. And that's not discrediting the fans of Jacksonville. It's the level of competition, I think, is what it is. And the traditionals of those college football games. But we're going to go ahead and move on to Week 3. Now, there's some interesting matchups. There's some top 25 matchups. There's old rivalries being renewed. There's new rivalries being renewed. There's a game where Nick Saban is kind of scratching his head because that's the team that beat Nick Saban in Alabama the first time uh, as a non-conference G5 school back in the day when Nick Saban first came on. But we're going to go ahead and jump to Friday. This is an ACC matchup, unranked marquee matchup. We got the 2-0 Florida State Seminoles traveling to Louisville to take on the Cardinals. Malik Cunningham versus Jordan Travis. Who do you got?
I got Florida State. I got Florida State probably by a touchdown, maybe 10.
Okay.
I think Louisville, again, like I said earlier, great program. You're in a dogfight with UCF, which is a good program, but they lost a lot of firepower to great talent going off into the league and everything. I think that I have Florida State if they do their job, if they play like they played against LSU, and they don't let up, I give them at least 10.
Okay. Well, you heard it on here on the PMP. The first guest prediction, by the way. Congrats on that, Coach Eric, Coach Eric Martin. But like you said, I pick Florida State as long as they don't make stupid mistakes like they did on the 1-yard line, pitching it. Don't ever pitch the ball when you're on the 1-yard line.
Yeah, no.
That was just a boneheaded decision, and you almost cost the game. If it wasn't for that blocked field goal, LSU probably would have won that game. But
most definitely would have won that game.
Yeah, because Jaden Daniels is unreal, and he was fun to watch at Arizona State. He's fun to watch at LSU. But back to this game, Jordan Travis has been impressive to me ever since this season started. I mean, he has played on a level that he hasn't been playing for the past couple seasons, and now he feels more confident. He feels more loose playing. I feel like this is going to be a closer game. I think this is going to be like a 3-point to a single touchdown game. I think Malik Cunningham is going to go off again. I just think it's going to come down to who has the ball last. I think it's going to come down to who's going to outplay who, Travis or Cunningham. So, in defense, who's gonna shine on defense, Florida State or Louisville? I just think Florida State's defense is a little bit better, especially the way they played against, Jaden Daniels in that game. But so me and Eric are in agreement on Florida State. Now we'll jump into the marquee matchups. I got matchups on here because it's more than one. Usually I have one. But since we have a special guest, we have 5 games, and one of them is a HBCU matchup. Nice. Let's go ahead and start with. Let's talk about that one. Grambling State, probably one of the most fun games on here. We'll be traveling to Jackson State. I mean, Coach Sanders, Deion Sanders. Who would have ever thought Deion Sanders would be a coach, let alone his son playing quarterback at Jackson State? Yeah. I mean, Shedeur Sanders is unfreaking believable. I've been watching this kid ever since high school when Deion was a coach over there at Trinity Private School over there in over in the DFW area. But man, I got Jackson State winning this one big. They have a lot of talent. They got the number one receiver on their team from recruiting. I think Deion Sanders might prove a point that HBCUs need a lot more respect, and I agree with that. I mean, Jackson State is a prime example of we can recruit just as good as these D1 schools, these Power Fives, so-called Power Fives. We can definitely recruit better than them. Look what we did against Florida State. Look what we did against Ole Miss and Mississippi State,
Right.
recruiting wise. And Dion brought up a really good point about NFL scouts not showing up to his camp when they were doing the scouting combine over there in Jackson State, or the draft. The draft. Gosh, I'm
The
drawing a
HBCU
blank.
combine.
Yeah. When they were doing the HBCU combine and then the pro day for Jackson State.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
there
I
was like
remember.
only I think there was like 8 scouts that were missing, and Deion Sanders called them out. I love Deion Sanders. I've always been a fan of Deion Sanders. I played corner. I kind of watched his film back in the day when I was in high school, but man, Jackson State winning big against Grambling State. Who you got in this one?
Jackson State all the way. I've had the pleasure of working with some of the staff at Jackson State. Shout out to Coach Bartoloni, man, their offensive coordinator over there. Great guy. I honestly couldn't imagine Grambling having a dog in the fight in this one. Um, it's really bad, man. I think like I've mentioned quite a few times tonight, man. It's the difference between team and culture. I think Grambling might have a team to less superior teams, but they do not have I'm sorry, team and program. They don't have the program that Jackson State has. Dion has single-handedly taken over recruiting, with taking, I want to say, the almost top 10 or top 15 um, recruiting classes in all of Division I football,
Yeah,
FBS and FCS included. Campbell actually had the top FCS recruiting class, and then Dion topped that. Um, Campbellville University up in North Carolina, and granted, FAMU down players, not fully prepared, whatever you want to call it. They
yeah.
have a ton of transfers, a ton of FBS guys coming in, FCS guys coming in, top tier high school guys coming in, and they got manhandled by Jackson State. I mean, manhandled. Um, I think that they know that they're good. They know the program. They know the expectation. Dion isn't here for flash and show necessarily. He's here to prepare guys to play at a high level. Um, and I think that HBCU wise, man, he's gonna run through them.
Oh,
Even
for
with
sure.
South Carolina State last year winning the Spirit Bowl and everything, that was a great game. South Carolina also had some great recruiting going on, but I think he's on a whole new level. I think that this is going to be oh, maybe a 2 touchdown game, if not more. And again, shout out to Grambling State staff as well. Work with them too, but I just don't think they have what it takes to adequately compete with Deion Sanders and Jackson State this week.
Right. As I'm having trouble showing myself, my screen kind of froze. But we're gonna kind of go through this quickly with predictions here, since we're running out of time, guys. Let's go ahead and go with 2 more games, unranked marquee matchups, and then we'll go with uh, our 5 picks of the ranked marquee matchups, since we're running out of time here tonight. So I have Kansas at Houston. Now, this could be an interesting matchup. I think Kansas 2-0 for the first time since when Todd Reese was quarterback. Houston with Dana Holgerson and Clayton Tune at the helm. They're doing a phenomenal job over there. But I will say I'm going to go with the Jayhawks on this one. I think the Jayhawks are a really impressive team, especially the way they played against West Virginia. Even though it was in overtime, they still played all the way. So I'm going with the Jayhawks in this one. Eric?
I agree, man. Like I said, I think that they found their niche this year. I think that they've hit the recruiting trail hard. I think they found guys that are buying into what they got going. So I'll take the Jayhawks on this one.
Yeah. Next game, we got the college game day of the week, Troy at Appalachian State. Um,
Yeah.
so this is coming off of a big victory over Texas A&M. Uh, who do you got in this game, Appalachian State or the Troy Trojans?
Man, App State is hands down my favorite upset team. But
Yeah,
Troy does have a very upsetting type of culture too. Uh, love both programs dearly. Shout out to my guys at Troy. Oh man, I don't know, man. I honestly don't know. That's gonna be a tough one. You know what? Both conference rivals there. Uh,
yeah.
man, I would say that I'll say this: whoever wins, I feel that it's going to be decided within a touchdown margin.
Mhm.
So between 6-7 points, and I think it's going to be a defensive battle there for sure. I haven't had a chance to really watch Troy this season yet, but they stay consistent to what they've been building and doing here for the last about 2, 3, 4 years. I think they have a good shot at making this a game and winning it. I know, of course, App State's going to come off of a week 2 high with A&M, and they're going to
And
bring
they
that
are
in.
playing at home. They are playing
They
at
are.
home, so that home crowd's a big factor too.
It is. It is.
So
That's why I'm so like but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, man. I honestly could not tell you.
so it's gonna be a coin toss for you then, huh?
Yeah, it's gonna have to be a coin toss, man. That's a game time decision.
I'm glad I made it hard for you because this wasn't a hard pick for me. I had to go with Appalachian State. They have a ton of talent. I feel like this Troy uh, defense is going to have a little bit of trouble against App State. Like you said, though, it's going to be a close game, but I got the Mountaineers winning this one. But
Okay. Okay. I can see it. Like I said, I don't think it would surprise me either way with either team
yeah,
winning. I think both of them have the potential to win this game. Um, I don't know, man. It's just it's a good one.
oh for sure, for sure. But our next game, Mississippi State at LSU. This is the last unranked marquee matchup of the night, and then we'll go with 5 ranked marquee matchups, and I'll post my predictions on our Twitter page and also the Facebook page that we have on Facebook. But Mississippi State going into Death Valley to take on the LSU Tigers. Coach Martin, the floor is
You get,
yours.
I don't care who they play. I'm always gonna go for LSU, man. Always, always got to go for my boys, man. Always a go Tigers nation, man. So it's gonna be LSU for me.
Go Tigers. All
Go
right.
Tigers, man.
All right. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, but that air raid that Mike Leach has is impressive to me. Uh, I'm going to have to go with the Bulldogs based off the wins that they had against Memphis. And, I mean, Mike Leach is really building a good program over there at Starksville. I mean, I'm going with the Bulldogs on this one. 2 years in a row winning against LSU in SEC competition. So
Yeah, you got
that
a point.
concludes. What's that?
So you got a point there.
Yeah, but that'll conclude the unranked matchups that we'll be watching. But here's the ranked matchups I'm really interested in. So number 6, Oklahoma. I was about to say Nebraska. Oh my God. Number 6, Oklahoma going to Lincoln, Nebraska to take on the Cornhuskers. Last season, Nebraska barely lost to Sooners 23-20. That was when Oklahoma had Spencer Rattler. Now they got Dylan Gabriel. And that's when Scott Frost was at the helm in Nebraska. Now Scott Frost is out. What's going to happen to Nebraska? I don't know. Who do you got in this game?
Not Nebraska. Can't lie to you, man. Shout out to my guy Bam up there. You know what I'm saying? Got family there, but I don't know, man. Well, yeah, I can't go in Nebraska on this one, man. A week's time, less than a week's time to prepare for this game. New coach and everything. I can't go in Nebraska on it.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that one. Despite Oklahoma with the unimpressive wins, I don't think Casey Thompson and Nebraska has what it takes to beat Oklahoma this year. It'll be a close one just like last season, but I don't think that Nebraska has what it takes to beat Oklahoma. And if they do, it'll be an impressive win without Scott Frost, and that may answer some questions to what's going on with Nebraska football in recent memory. But yeah, I got Oklahoma winning that game. Next game, I got number 12, BYU. Now they're about to crack open to the top 10, you think? Well, they're traveling to Eugene, Oregon. This is a tough call. I'm going to let you pick this one.
BYU.
Woo!
Yeah, Oregon did not impress me week one. I think, honestly, my opinion, Bo Nix made a terrible mistake leaving Auburn, and
Yeah.
I don't know what he was thinking, but yeah, I'm gonna have to go with BYU on this.
Well, we're not disagreeing. I think BYU's defense is really going to bring pressure, just like Georgia did to Bo Nix. I think he's going to struggle against that defense. And honestly, that offense of BYU's rough in the diamond. So they're going to be pounding the ball a lot in this game. I feel like the Cougars are going to win this game. Not convincingly, but enough for me to say they're going to win this game. Next game that I have on tap is Texas Tech traveling to NC State. NC State has really been making some noise as of late in the recent years, but they did have an unimpressive win against East Carolina. They beat Charleston Southern, but they're about to have their first true test against Texas Tech. I'm going to have to go with the upset here, the Texas Tech Red Raiders in this game. I think Texas Tech is better than what people think. I think Joey McGuire is really building something good over there in Lubbock. And who knows, they may be on the rise for the next couple of years in the Big 12, especially with Texas and Oklahoma leaving. That leaves a lot of recruiting for Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders. Who do you got in this game, the Wolfpack or the Red Raiders?
Red Raiders, man. Wolfpack has been in some games that, honestly, if they were at the caliber that people are thinking they're at, they shouldn't have been in, man. Way too high-scoring games with teams that they shouldn't even be able to compete with them. I got the Red Raiders on this one.
Yeah. So 3 agreements, no disagreements so far, except for the Mississippi State and LSU, but you're a Tigers fan, so I completely understand.
Definitely.
Next game is a question game for both Miami and Texas A&M. Is Miami really that good, or is Texas A&M really that bad? Or is Texas A&M going to bounce back, or is Miami going to really pound them? Here's what I think. I think Miami is going to run roughshod all over the Aggies defense because Texas A&M doesn't have an offense, man. Like, Haynes King cannot get it done with Texas A&M, and Jimbo Fisher is looking clueless out there right now to find out if he's going to make a quarterback change or not. You got Miami coming to Kyle Field. You just lost to App State. So I don't have any confidence for A&M winning this game. And it's going to be a convincing win for Miami, in my opinion. Who you got, Eric?
I almost feel about this game how I feel about Troy and App State, to be honest with you.
Uh-oh.
Is neither one has shown great displays of talent this season so far. I wouldn't even say talent, just aptitude, I'd say. Um, um, if I had to pick a team, I'd say Texas A&M. I think they have more manpower to get the job done. But I don't. I wouldn't even say it would surprise me if Miami won. I don't know, man. It's just going to be a good first test for Miami. I don't. I would never deem App State as a quote unquote bad team, so I wouldn't even say that
Right.
this will be a first test for A&M because App State isn't a bad team. So, but
Yeah.
I got Jimbo and App State on this one.
Or A&M.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got two more games. UTSA at Texas. We talked about it a little bit, but the prediction is here. Um, I'm gonna have to go with Texas. They're gonna be in that home field environment. Yeah, we don't know who's gonna start at quarterback, Malik Murphy or Charles Wright. We don't know if Bijan's gonna play. I don't think that's gonna matter. I think UTSA is very talented and can compete with Texas. I just think that Texas has a lot of guys that are really good on the field, and they proved it against Alabama. That Alabama game pretty much convinced me that Texas is going to be a good football team this year, and I got Texas winning that game.
Yeah,
Got the same
yeah.
thing?
I do. I do.
Okay.
I do.
Well, last game is a game that was played last season. We got number 22 Penn State squaring off against Auburn at Auburn. I mean, these two teams have played each other last year. Um, I'm going to have to go with Penn State in this game. I think Penn State is a really tough football team. I that Purdue comeback win was impressive. I think Purdue's better than what people think. Auburn was
100%
struggling
agree.
against San Jose State. Yeah, Auburn was struggling against San Jose State. I don't think they're going to beat Penn State in this game. Penn State's tougher, in my opinion.
I'm gonna go with Penn State on this one as well. I
All
agree.
right.
Auburn lost an edge. Like I say, Bo Nix leaving it's funny because it seems that it wasn't a great addition to Oregon. It didn't change much for Oregon, but it changed a ton for Auburn, which is ridiculously funny to me. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Penn State on this one. But I do believe that Auburn could pull off the upset from our pick. But I think Penn State got this one.
Oh man. Well, it seems like we agreed on a whole lot there, Eric, and I appreciate your time, man. I know you're a busy man. Uh, like I said, we appreciate you coming on here to the PMP and for actually giving us your time and your thoughts on a lot of things, and also predicting. Like, had a heck of a night with you, Coach Martin. So I appreciate your time, and I hope we could do this some more, man. This was awesome.
Yeah, for sure, man. Again, I definitely appreciate you having me on. I had a great time. Definitely, love to be back on again. To all the listeners, make sure you're tuning in to the Pigskin Mafia podcast. And again, as I mentioned earlier, if you have a high school, college, junior college recruiting need, you're looking to learn more about the recruiting game, you have something to add to the recruiting game. If you're into the sports world, looking for your sports career, you would like a internship, come join the On My Way family, one way or another, man. Top name in recruiting, free recruiting platform. Visit us at OMW Recruiting or omwrecruiting.com. And hey, be back again.
Yes, sir. And I'm glad that you're able to come on a very, very good night to talk about college football. And what a historic weekend it was. But my final thoughts is this, man. I'm glad that you came on. I'm glad that you're on, and to bring your platform on the my platform. It's awesome, man. It's just two people helping each other out. That's what I'm here for. Is that not only help me out, but to help you out as well. So building each other's platforms is what I love to do, and uh, I'm glad to have you as a guest, and hopefully we can have you back on here. Maybe we can have more guests on here at some point. Maybe you and Booby on at the same time.
I would love that, man. Have a little round table.
Yeah, yeah. Kind of just go over a couple things like who's the who in college football, or what's the differences between our generations. So yeah. I mean, I'm glad that you came on here, Coach Martin, and I hope that you have a wonderful night. And same to you, folks. And I wish my camera was working. For some reason, it was frozen tonight, but that's not going to stop my voice because we are the cream of the crop in all football podcasting. We are at the top of the game, and Coach Martin, OMW style. We are the PMP, for the love of football. Thank you for watching tonight, guys, and be sure to tune in for Thursday night when we talk about NFL. Me and Caleb. This is TJ Riddell signing off. Thank you very much. Goodbye.